We are in the heart of Houston in Spring Branch, Texas, and we have a property today that we're going to take a look at. This thing is already sold. Let's go inside, let's take a look, and let's see what we got going on. Hey everyone, welcome to BiggerPockets Investing with Purpose. I'm your host, Steve Rozenberg, and this is a weekly series where we go to different properties all around Houston, Texas, and we decide what is the best thing to do with the property. So today I am joined with my good friend Mat Trenchard from Set House Buyers, and we are in the area called Spring Branch in Houston. So Matt, tell us a little bit about Spring Branch.
Yeah, first off, I love this area. I've lived in this area for the last probably 3 years. I used to live like a quarter mile east of us. Now I live about 1.5 miles west. And so this area is really up and coming. It's becoming very close to the center. It's very close to the center of town. So it's close to downtown. It's close to the Galleria area. If you're familiar with any of those major points of interest in Houston, and obviously I'm biased because I live here, but I think this is one of those ones where if you can buy here now, no matter what your strategy is, you're going to be good in the near future.
Yeah, and I remember in 2005, I owned an apartment complex just on the other side of the main road here, and the church was on one side and a private school was on the other side, and basically they got into a bidding war because they needed a parking lot. And
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so they actually bought the apartment complex from us and turned it into a parking lot, and that's how limited on land they are. This is an area, when you're looking at deals, whether it's Houston or anywhere, you want to see what does the future have to hold. And if you start looking around, there are indicators that will tell you whether or not it makes sense to purchase or not purchase based on the environment and based on what you're seeing. And what you're seeing, and we're going to talk about the best exit strategy for this deal, we will be able to help you decide, what do you do with this? Do you turn this into a rental property? Do you turn this into a flip? What do you do? Now, I think this story is very, very important for people to understand, because you have a specific story with this property that is a great lesson for you if you get a deal that has a motivated seller that maybe has some twists and turns in it.
This was a marathon of a deal for us, and it's really, especially for the people who are just getting into the investing world right now, if you're gonna buy a house for 70, 80, 75% ARV minus the repairs, there's a reason you're getting the house for a discount. And it's very important to not get discouraged by curveballs and roadblocks and obstacles that you have along the way of that transaction.
Well, why don't we take a look around, let's get some basic information on the property, let's see what we would do, and let's determine, is this a property that we would turn into a rental property, or is this a property that we would flip for retail value? What do we do with this property? And the numbers, which we're gonna go into, are gonna help us dictate that. So why don't we take a look around, let's walk and let's talk about this property. Now this is about a 1,500 square foot house.
Right.
And this is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. And it was built in the 50s, correct?
And it is all original.
It's all original. So let's take a walk through and see. If you look right here, obviously there are hardwood floors.
Yep.
These look original.
And they're actually not in that poor of condition. You could refinish these. They're not too past the point of no return.
Okay, well let's take a look in the bedrooms and just, like if you were going to turn this into a retail flip, what are some things that you would do with this property?
Well, in this, I'm pretty much doing everything cosmetic on the inside of this house, right?
Okay.
You're talking about, if you're doing a retail flip in this neighborhood, you're gonna be in the mid 300s, which is about $100,000 more than the median. So if you're in a different area, you can kind of compare that to your area, whatever your median price is. And so you got to do everything. We got some serious foundation work we've got to do. You'll see that in the cracks in the tile, the cracks in the walls, and then everything cosmetically. As we work our way through the bathrooms and the kitchen, everything's got to go.
All right, so let's take a look here in the bathroom. Okay, so Matt, what are we looking at here? Obviously, again, as you said, this looks like a completely original property.
Oh yeah.
Nothing has really been done. I mean, you can look at the sink and we can tell that that is obviously original. I mean, it looks like one from a schoolhouse from what I remember.
There's literally no drain pipe.
And there is no drain pipe there, so there's that.
So this is your classic Houston 1950s bathroom. The colored tile, you see a lot of greens and pinks and blues. And then also, I don't know, maybe people were just shorter back in the day. Jay, see if you can come get this, but I'm not a super tall guy.
You are not,
but
a tall
I gotta
guy.
get down here to get the hair away.
So obviously there's a height disadvantage to having this. So obviously you got to move that up.
Right, so obviously this whole bathroom is gonna get redone. All new floors, all new tile surrounds, new sink, new toilet, new walls, the whole nine.
Now, if you were going to do this, what would you, and again, on a retail level, to make it nice, how much would you expect to spend to do this?
To this bathroom?
Yeah.
In Houston, you're gonna spend probably about $5,000 on a bathroom this size to do everything.
Okay, so a brand new bathroom, $5,000,
That's a good ballpark.
and you're all in.
Yep.
Okay, good to know. All right, let's take a look at the rest of it and let's see what we got.
Okay.
Okay, so let's walk into bedroom number 1 and let's see what we're looking at. Now, obviously this is a very standard bedroom, but as we have seen in many of our other videos, if I close my eyes and I walk, I can feel the ground sloping down right here. And what's important to understand here in Houston, Texas, is that the soil is such that houses almost all settle, especially one this age. So would you say that we would leave the flooring in here as is?
I absolutely would.
I think it looks nice.
I'd probably hit it with a sander, yep, maybe stain it again, but I mean the floors are in good shape. They're not peeling up, they're not cracked, they don't have big gouges in them. So you can easily finish these up and they'll look like brand new floors.
And then, let me ask you this. In this type of property, again, for a retail flip, would you recommend replacing all the windows?
For a flip, yes, I would. Yeah.
Okay.
For a retail flip, I would. If I was gonna rent it out, probably not. But if I'm gonna do a retail flip, I'm
You're gonna get your money back out of it. So what other things, I mean, this is a standard room, you know, tape and float, all that.
Yeah, tape and float, patch all the holes in the wall, cracks in the sheetrock. I would obviously probably do some new plugs because we can get some footage here, Jay, of the 2-prong versus the 3-prong plugs.
Oh yeah.
So you can. It's not necessarily an indicator you need to rewire the whole entire house,
But it is telling you that
it is telling you that this electrical system is old. So you're going to want to get an electrician to come take a look at your panel as well as the rest. And sometimes, not all the time, sometimes you can get away with just replacing the plugs as opposed to rewiring the whole house.
Yeah, but again, when you're looking at a deal, this is an indication when you see 2 prongs that you definitely need to get an electrician out here because you may be having to do a whole rewire, which is permitted and everything. Now, let's talk about this here. What would you do?
Clearly, we're going to be replacing this fan.
I think it's I don't think we want the dust flying around.
I mean, we got about 70 years of dust on that puppy, so
Yeah.
we're gonna get rid of that thing.
Would you put a ceiling fan in? I know for a while people were putting fans in and then they stopped.
I would definitely put a ceiling fan in. So.
Okay. So what would you say to get this room ready? I mean, I know you're gonna sub it out of everything. But
Just this one room, $1,000, $1,500.
Okay.
I like to think of it in terms of the way we walk properties is we think of it in terms of subs, right? So I do the sheetrock budget for the house, the flooring budget for the house, the ceiling fan budget for the house, etc. As opposed to
inclusive of the whole thing.
correct. As opposed to just doing how much will this room cost or that room cost.
Okay. So that's a good tip for you when you're doing a flip and you're doing a whole house. Do it per sub of the job, not per the room or the property itself.
Right.
That's a good point.
So I'm really just trying to get close enough within 10% to make a purchasing decision.
And if you're here in Houston and you're thinking of what to budget for either a fan person to walk around with you or an air conditioning unit or a bucket for your sweat.
Yeah.
Let's go see what else we got.
We can go in here and take a look in the second bedroom.
Okay, let's see what we got here. No lights. The mattress is free, obviously, which
Mattress comes with the house for sure, as well as the boxes. I'm like falling back this way on my heels, so it's definitely got some more slope. You can see some more cracks in the sheetrock. They've got the old wood paneling on the wall here.
What would you do with the ceiling here? It looks like it's the knockdown style.
Yeah, I'd probably get him to sand that down and match texture to whatever ceiling I have throughout the house. One thing to keep in mind, and this is something I tell new investors all the time, is you're not buying this house to live in it. So don't put your designer hat on and say, just because you would love to have 10-foot ceilings, go spend an extra $5,000 to raise the ceilings in the house if you're not gonna get 10, 15, 20 grand back when you sell it, because you're just not.
The general rule of thumb that I used to always think of is if I'm putting $1 in, I should get 2 out.
Yep.
So is this raising the roof going to get me more money? If the answer is no, then you don't do it.
Correct.
If the answer is yes, I need it to compete in the marketplace, then you've got to invest that and you got to put that into your dollars.
Absolutely. And in this neighborhood, remodeled houses, you don't need to. If you were going to tear this house down and build new and sell it for $1 million, you're probably going to come back with taller ceilings.
Makes sense. All right. And would you replace these doors and door handles too?
If I was going, the door handles, yes. The door, I might, if I'm renting it, probably just paint the doors because they're in good shape. If I'm gonna flip the house and sell it retail, I'm probably gonna replace the doors, put those 6 panels on.
Okay. All right. Let's go take a look at bedroom number 3.
Last one.
All right. What do we have here? This looks like the 3rd and final bedroom that we have. Obviously, ceiling fan. That is free, the little tree scented. I'm gonna guess because it looks out at the backyard, this probably is the master bedroom.
Yeah, in these old style homes, when you only have 1 bathroom, a lot of times you don't have your classic bathroom off of the bedroom, but this is a relatively big one. It's in the backyard. It's a little bit smaller than the front room, but it really just depends.
Yeah.
You could go with this one or the front as the master.
Correct, yeah. And again, this is a very standard, I'm assuming same here, you would keep the flooring, maybe put the sander to it, paint, check everything else, and other than that, you're good to go. Now, I noticed that a couple of outlets here have the 3 prongs.
They've already replaced them. So that tells me that more than likely, the wiring is probably gonna be okay. You're just gonna go back to where you had your 2 prongs and replace those receptacles.
And again, this is something when you're buying a property, you want to make sure that you allocate money, especially a house built in the 50s.
Yes.
You've got to allocate for electrical work and making sure that it is up to code, because you can't just replace this box. At least here in Houston, Texas, you cannot just replace this box without getting a permit and going down that path.
Physically, you can. You shouldn't, and if you get, I've heard horror stories of investors who try to get it done on the weekends and at nights and avoid the inspector, and then the guy comes out and he finds out, and guess what? You're pulling all the sheetrock out to go make sure your electrical's okay, and it is not something you want to do.
This is where you don't want to cut corners. Yes, you could, but the end result is it's not a good idea, because especially the fact that you have someone living in this property and you are going to be liable, because the first thing, if something happens, if there's a fire, the first thing they're going to do is say, where's the permit on this?
Yep. And if you do a house like this where you're doing everything and you don't pull permits and they ask for them, you got some explaining to do.
Yeah, so again, it just goes to show, moral of the story here is don't cut corners, because either it will cost you in the end, or it could be something that's even more dangerous down the road. All right, let's go take a look at the rest of the house.
Hey Steve, you're old, you probably remember what these are. You remember what this was used for?
Actually, I do. This is, which is interesting, you only see this in older houses. This actually is where the phone used to sit. And if I'm not mistaken,
you slide your phone book.
You put your phone book, which they don't even have anymore, right?
They do, they're much thinner these days.
Yeah, so this is where the family phone would sit. And this is in most all older houses you will find. And yeah, you don't see that anymore.
No, you don't.
Now, let me ask you this. Would you keep this for nostalgia?
Some people do. Some people leave them in there because it's just kind of fun and cool to talk about. And it's not like you're really going to do anything with this wall anyway, so it just adds a little bit of a feature to the house.
You can make it an iPhone charging station. That's what you could do with it.
You could have your electrician, if you're already going to do something, put a plug back here, and that would be a nice kind of refurbished use of an old style feature. That'd be a good idea.
All right, so speaking of phone books, now that they're smaller, you may even be able to rip one.
I know, I gotta get the gym, get the old pipes on them. Like
at 4 a.m., you get up at 4 a.m. and you can do it too, man.
No, it's all right.
All right, so let's see what we got in here. This is the kitchen. Again, this is a standard kitchen for this time era. Now, I gotta say, I kind of like this tile, but you're gonna have to get rid of it, right? I mean, it's nostalgically I like it. Functionality, it doesn't work. I get that.
No way, man. This stuff's gotta go. Okay, it's gotta go.
So everything's getting ripped out of here.
Oh yeah. If I'm coming in here, I'm ripping this whole kitchen apart and going back with it.
Okay.
Either a granite or a quartz or something like that. If you do all the cabinets, countertops, backsplash, appliances, everything in here, you're probably in the 8 to 12 grand range.
Tell me your thoughts on this. It's closed in, which was very standard back in the day. Nowadays, everybody wants to be able to see out, and it's a great area if you opened it up.
Yeah, so this one actually would make flowing into a open area, an open concept kitchen very, very easy. It's already got the cutouts here to kind of see in, so it's already laid out and set up in a fashion that opening these walls here and putting an island in would be something that would really make this kitchen pop. So.
And then what kind of countertops would you put in here and on the island as well?
I'd probably go with like a granite or a quartz product in this. You don't need to be super high end for the $350,000 price point. But quartz and granite quartz is a little bit more expensive, but it's nice. It's got like the long veins. It doesn't have the speckle that granite has, so it has a little bit more of a high-end feel and look to it. So.
Okay. And then as far as the cabinets go, what kind of cabinets would you put in this thing?
Man, honestly, what I do and stuff like this is I get brand new prefab shaker-style door cabinets. The cabinets these days, you can get the prefabricated that are all custom measured.
Really?
So they're brand new. They look just like custom built cabinets, but they're like half the price of custom built cabinets. So
and it gives you that look, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, let's take a look over in here and see what we got. So now we've pretty much come full circle in the house. This is we'll call it the breakfast area.
Yeah, a little breakfast nook.
Breakfast nook. Now, again, looking at it from this side, you knock this wall down so you have the island. So again, it's something that would give you good appeal.
Absolutely.
We're looking at about 10 to 12 grand for that to make it look right. In here, again, this is part of the bigger house, the bigger front room. And this is basic, right? I mean, you've got the windows, you put new windows in, obviously, like we said, put some kind of light fixture in. From the vents, I see that we have central AC. Yep. We're gonna go outside and we're gonna take a look and just see what this AC may look like. I wish it was on right now, but it's not, so we're just dealing with it. So this is a 10,000 square foot lot, where the average lots down here are 8,000 square feet. So what does that mean? That means that the lot is obviously much bigger than the standard, and so there's value there, especially here in this area where you're paying a lot of money for the dirt that this house sits on. You need to pay attention to the lot sizes of these properties, because this could be the difference of making a lot of money and making not as much money when it comes to selling this thing.
Yeah.
So let's go take a look outside and let's see what we got. So first of all, let's look at the siding here, Matt. What would you do with this siding?
Depending on what I'm gonna do, if I'm gonna rent it out, I'm probably leaving it. If I'm gonna sell it, then I'll probably go back with a hardy plank.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't look that bad right now.
I mean,
especially if you painted it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would look good. So some other things that I'm seeing just from us walking around, obviously we've got this garage door.
Yeah.
Not many cars will fit in a garage like this nowadays, right?
It's definitely a one car.
This is kind of like the phone book area inside. It's nostalgic, it's good, it's probably good for storage.
Yep.
Let's go take a look around the side and look at the back. Anytime you can buy a property with a lot of land, you're pretty doing good, especially in downtown Houston area.
I was gonna say, when we're in a neighborhood where the lot value is accelerating as fast as it is here, then a larger lot compared to the average becomes even more valuable than maybe a standard subdivision, like suburban lot. Yeah, so in this area, when the lot value is so high, these older style homes, before you build new or remodel them, a lot of times the land value is more valuable than the structure sitting on the land.
Yeah.
And that's what we have at a house like this.
Yeah, so that just goes to show that if you held this property, if you bought this property and held it, the value of this property, let's say in 10, 15 years, is gonna go through the roof.
Yes, it is.
And again, that could be a strategy that you have. You may buy this property and say, you know what, I'm gonna sit on this for 15 years. Maybe I won't make it up in cash flow, but I will make it up in appreciation by it going up in value exponentially over time.
Absolutely.
So let's take a look at what we have here. The backyard looks good. It's a basic yard, not much to it. It's just a lot of dirt back here. When I look at the roof line,
I'd probably replace the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see any holes or any gaps, but you can tell that
she's on her last leg for sure.
It definitely needs to. Now, would you put a ply on top, or would you rip it off and do a whole new one?
I'd probably rip and replace.
Just because you're doing everything brand new and you want to sell it, yeah.
Yep.
Now, and again, every place is different, but in Houston, you can put another layer on top. I believe you can go two
layers.
You can go 2 layers on top of the roof. So it's just something, when you have a property, that is something that you can factor in if you're turning it into a rental or something. You don't always have to rip the whole thing off and put a new one on. You could just put another ply on top of it, and that may be all that you need.
Yeah, the only thing with that is when you do a layer on top without going straight to the plywood, then your shingle life is not as long.
Right.
So if you have a 30-year shingle, it might only last 20 if you just go on top of. So that's something to think about long term.
Again, these are just factors that you want to come into play, that when you're buying something and you have the exit strategy, what is the exit and what is the best use of your money? Because it's going to cost a lot more to pull everything off that roof than just throw a double ply on there.
So clearly you want to have a nice patio here in Houston, especially in this hot weather, because we just love hanging out in this hot weather. With
Sitting outside is essential at this time of year.
So definitely keep the paint bucket.
Yes,
for your outdoor seating.
Yeah.
And under our luxury awning here.
Okay, so the awning, would you keep it or would you get rid of it?
Yeah, I would keep it. The expense to take it off isn't going to add any value to the house. So I would make sure that it's sound, make sure it's structurally sound, and I would definitely leave it out here.
Would you extend the concrete at all?
Not for this price point, no. If I was going to be selling it at $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, and I'm going to be doing $80,000, $100,000, $120,000 worth of work, then I'm going to probably start thinking about extending the patio a little bit more, but not for this size house.
Not for this. Okay. No. All right, let's go take a look at the air conditioning and the electrical panel. See what we got.
Well, for us to go look at the air conditioning unit, we're gonna need to go find the guy who stole it first.
Yeah. So, okay. Obviously, there is no air conditioning unit here, and in Houston, it is not uncommon when you have a vacant property. A lot of cities actually, but in Houston, they will borrow the air conditioning unit sometimes.
Permanently
borrow.
Yes.
But again, this was borrowed, so you want to be careful putting it back in. Sometimes when I've had rental properties in certain areas of town, we'd have to cage them and put them in welded cages so that they would not remove the air conditioning unit from the premises.
That usually only happens when the house has been vacant for a little bit of time, because they know they can come in the backyard, get away with it, get out of here. So I would put it in when I'm getting close to being ready to move in. So when I'm getting close to the end of the project,
Yeah. What's the reason that they're stealing these? They want the money? They want the actual unit? Like, why would, what's the value?
Yeah, so it depends. A lot of times they take it so they can get a unit. Maybe they're gonna just reuse it at another house. Or a lot of times what they do is they get the scrap metal money from it. So they'll take the unit, bring it to the scrap yard, get a few $100 in scrap metal, and that's what they use it for.
So either way, it could be another investor that's actually using it. They may need it for money, or they may need it for their rental property.
It's probably not a good investor if he's resulting to steal an AC.
That's my point. That's my point.
In.
So they're out there. All right, let's go take a look at the electrical box.
Ridged.
One thing to realize when you're dealing with electrical boxes, and this has to do with the air conditioning being stolen, is that whenever there is a red tag or people know that there's no power at the property, that is when things start getting stolen, because they know that they're not going to get shocked. I personally have had many properties that when the power was off, then they would go in and they would steal all the wiring out of the property because they knew they wouldn't get shocked. One thing that we used to do, as soon as we had a vacancy, we turned the power on at the property, because that saves a lot of money by them not stealing the box or stealing all the electrical. Also will stop them maybe from not stealing the air conditioning unit. It doesn't guarantee it, but again, it's just something.
So let's talk about this panel.
All right.
So as you can see, I forget what they call them, but these are your very, very small, very, very old style breakers. So this tells me that I'm definitely gonna need to, at the very least, replace the panel. Now, as we've already seen walking through the inside of the house, there's a lot of the two prongs. So all those red flags, they don't mean walk away from the deal. They mean I need to investigate further. So with knowing I got a panel replacement, knowing I've got some receptacles replacing, I'm gonna go ahead and have the electrician come out here to plan and see if I need to rewire the house.
Now, if you were gonna have to rewire the house and get a permit and do the whole thing, what are you looking at cost-wise?
So a single family, this size house, for a new panel, a new rewire, and all new receptacles, that's gonna be in the $5,000 to $6,000 range here in Houston.
Okay, so again, remember, you need to think about this because you wanna put that into the budget. Don't just assume this is gonna be okay. You don't budget for it.
Right.
And then next thing you know, it gets red tagged or there's a problem, and then you gotta deal with it at the end when you didn't plan for it. So
correct.
These are the things you really gotta think about. You gotta look at these boxes, you gotta understand, when in doubt, just bring an electrician out here and they're gonna tell you if you need to pull permits and what you have to do, because again, this is not something that you wanna cut corners on, in my opinion.
And for no matter what the strategy is, like we talked about with this house, potentially renting it, potentially selling it. Well, if you're going to rent it, you want to do it from the liability perspective. And if you're going to sell it, it's a huge selling point to say, hey, I did all new electrical in this house. for whatever buyer's coming in to buy it, because you're still going to be selling a 1950s house. But now you can say, hey, look, I did a roof, I got new AC, I've got new electrical. And so your house, compared to the guy who hasn't done new electrical, is significantly more valuable.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, so let's talk numbers.
Okay.
All right, this house is sitting on how big of a lot?
It's about 10,000 square feet, a little over 10,000 square feet.
Okay, 10,000 square foot lot, and this is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, correct?
Correct.
What is the square footage of the property?
It's about 1,500, like 1,530.
Okay, now what was the property sold for, and what is the property worth?
Sure, so the property sold for 190,000. The investor who bought it is gonna spend about 45 or 50,000 fixing it up.
Okay.
And his plan is to put it up for lease and sale at the same time, and whichever comes first is what he's gonna take. If he puts it up for rent, he'll probably rent in the 1,600, 1,700 range a month. And if he sells it, it'll probably sell for about 315 to 325 once it's fixed up.
Okay, so he's doing an either or option.
Correct, because he's thinking, I can hold on to this and rent it out, and 3-5 years later, I'm pretty confident the value of the property is going to go up. And so he's kind of indifferent as to which strategy he uses.
Now, if he puts 40 to 45,000 into the property, that is, he could retail flip this property, but that's kind of a nice rental property.
It absolutely is a nice rental.
He could be overspending for a rental.
Right.
However, because the values of these properties are going up so fast, it's going to catch up very, very quickly. Now, if somebody didn't have a Mat and they wanted to figure out what were the rent comparables or the sales comparables, how does somebody find that?
I'm always a fan, you gotta go to the MLS and get the data from the MLS. So you can use that either becoming an agent yourself, which is something I recommend, which we could talk about later, or finding a local realtor or local investor who is very familiar with the area that you're investing in.
Yeah, so again, it just shows that you've got to do your homework. You've got to make sure that the property you're buying, just numbers don't match. You've got to make sure that the area makes sense for what your goals and what your strategies are whenever you're buying something, whether you're gonna flip it, you're gonna wholesale it, you're gonna rent it out, whatever the case may be, you gotta get the whole picture, and that's the lesson here to know. And if you need help, and if you need resources, and you need someone to guide you through a process, BiggerPockets.com is the place you need to go. Please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe here. Thank you for watching. Catch you guys next time.